America still grieving over the ambush-style shooting of two National Guard members in Washington on Wednesday. Sarah Beckstrom, 20 years old, who volunteered to work in D.C. over the Thanksgiving holiday, dead. Andrew Wolf, 24, hospitalized and in critical condition following surgery. The suspect, who was wounded, is a 29-year-old Afghan national. According to U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, he'll be charged with first-degree murder. In the aftermath, President Trump has called for more troops to be sent to the Capitol and has also said that his administration will work to permanently pause migration from all third world countries. Joining me now to discuss is CNN senior political and global affairs commentator Rahm Emanuel. He's the former ambassador to Japan under President Biden, former chief of staff under President Obama. He's also former mayor of Chicago. Ambassador, you said recently to a law enforcement group that defunding the police was the dumbest public policy statement ever. I wondered when I watched that quote, is it bad branding or was it a bad idea or both?
What I said was both defunding the police was a dumb idea, only to be outdone for dumber about National Guard, because neither will solve public safety concerns, which is about putting more community police officers on the street, practicing community policing, and getting kids, guns, and gangs off the street. And the federal government can be a partner in all that. These are two choices that are both false choices and don't address the real problem of addressing public safety, both good community policing with officers working the neighborhoods and knowing the community, then giving kids after-school programs, summer jobs, activities, getting guns and drugs off the street, and the gangs that funnel those. And the U.S. attorneys can do a good job of prosecuting those. That's a comprehensive approach that deals with all aspects of public safety that comes in many shapes and differences, but across big cities, small cities, and medium-sized cities.
Do you see any role for the National Guard in that?
Look, National Guard, just like here, leaving Chicago. Chicago, what I see the role here is building up a police force, practice, trained, and working at community policing. That's a permanent effort that works at reducing crime, knowing the good people on a street in a community, and knowing where the trouble spots are. That's what, this is not a one and done and flash. Here for 4 weeks, gone. You got a permanent problem where you have to address it comprehensively and put pressure on it with community policing, after-school programs when the bell goes off, or at the end of the year, school year. Kids have good activities, artistic, athletic, academic, with a mentor, and then putting the full force of the law, getting gang members off the streets who are funneling in drugs and guns. That is a comprehensive effort, and it's not one and done. It's a year in, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year effort, and you're going to do it consistently, which is why you see year after year reduction, because it's pressure put on both the root causes and the expressions of violent crime that are needed. The U.S. Attorney here is
the Washington Post editorial board recently published this. Put it up on the screen and I'll read it to the ambassador. The National Guard's presence in the Capitol has been controversial since it began this summer, but blaming the presence for provoking this monstrous act is inappropriate. The Guard has helped reduce and deter violent crime and is far from menacing. At worst, deploying soldiers to pick up trash is a poor use of resources. President Donald Trump's decision to call up an additional 500 Guard members to patrol is a symbolic gesture, not a prelude to fascism. Your reaction to that?
Yeah. Look, Michael, look, what happened here is absolutely abhorrent. This young woman, look, read her story. She volunteered to be part of the National Guard so she can go to college. She chose to serve us and then be away from her family on Thanksgiving. This shooter-killer drives all the way from Washington State, all the way across the country to kill somebody, and then another guardsman is hanging on by his life. As somebody who's a mayor that used to go by the side of officers at hospitals who were shot, my uncle was a police officer in Chicago, or kids who were shot by random violence. So the notion, look, nothing justifies what happened. Nothing. She is exactly what you would want to see. Worked hard, tried to go to college, tried to better her life, volunteered to serve others. She deserves to be honored. But the National Guard, the original question was about public safety. The National Guard is not about that, and that's not the effort, and we shouldn't confuse it and try to score political points. There's a legitimate way to solve public safety, which is a real problem. It's not a documented, nobody walks around going, I feel 22% safer this year. It's a real problem that needs to be addressed so people can go about their lives, both residential and retail, in the sense of their lives and the vitality of a neighborhood. And here we should honor somebody that chose public service, that chose to serve others, that gave up her Thanksgiving with her family so you could be with yours. That's what we should do, and remember the common values that we all share and the common desire for good, safe communities for all children to grow up in. That's not too hard. That doesn't require politics.
Okay,
and it doesn't
but
require us to politicize this fight.
I think it bears underscoring that the person responsible for this horrible outcome is the perpetrator, right? The guy who drove across country and did what he did. Okay, he's the perp. I want to ask you about this. Politico recently. I just want to make sure it's crystal clear. No. I just for both our sakes, I want to make sure the record's entirely clear. Politico writing about you on crime because you recently made a major address. I want to read this aloud and see if they got it right. Relative to Rahm Emanuel as mayor, grappled with a surge in homicides and shootings, with the city reporting its deadliest year in 2 decades in 2016. Crime rates across major categories, murders, shootings, robberies, and burglaries declined over the next 2 years, which the city's police department attributed to strengthened community partnerships and technological investment. Emanuel poured millions in expanding youth mentoring and summer job programs to keep kids off the streets, initiatives that remain a point of pride. How's that for a summary of a very complicated record?
This is a very common look. When I walked out, burglaries, robberies, car thefts were at a 20-year low, and shootings and homicides were coming dramatically down. We did have a spike. We put our arms around it, brought also technology dealing with carjackings and other types of challenges that we were having. And then we had these, what are data centers between the University of Chicago Crime Lab, predictive policing, so we can stop the shooting before it occurred. And I am very proud of the fact that we tripled the size of summer jobs after school. Largest mentoring program in America was in the city of Chicago. We gave people that, rather than have recidivism, we gave ex-offenders jobs so they could be productive. And then we encouraged the U.S. Attorney to bring the full force of the law against the gang members, a few of them who were committing overwhelming amount of the gun violence. And it worked, but don't kid yourself, it worked as if you checked the box. It's a nonstop effort supporting good community policing, as I said, giving kids proper activities and mentors to do, and then bringing the law and all the law on those who are doing the major amounts of gun violence or drug dealing in a city, the U.S. Attorney's Office with the State's Attorney's Office.
Ambassador Rahm Emanuel, thank you. We appreciate your being here.